Ladies and gentlemen, we need to start with a moment of silence. Nobody died. It's for our economy. Because with the announcement that fuel has hit 1,000 naira plus at NNPC stations in Abuja and 998 naira per litre. And at this rate, I don't know if it's going to go higher at the stations here in Lagos. I don't even know what to say. Ladies, please hold my hands. Let's take a moment of silence. Is it up to 1 minute yet?
I almost sang a dirge. Which way, Nigeria?
You know, we always sing it here.
Which way
you
to
know,
go?
and people think it's a joke when we sing it. I love my fatherland. I want to know.
I want to know
which way
Nigeria.
I'm telling you,
he's heading to. And remember the year that this song was sung. Blessings, I am truly at loss for words. This is the third time this year alone I think that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited will raise prices. This latest increase comes after the news that NNPC decided to terminate its exclusive purchase agreement with Dangote Refinery. I don't know what the government wants from Nigerians. You are pushing everyone to the edge. Transport and food are already high. People are already choosing when to eat. And now this.
Listen, I say when I saw the queue to buy fuel, despite the new price, I wanted to just scream, take me back. It feels like we simply have no choice in the matter. When will enough be truly enough for us? Will we run our vehicles on blood? Listen, it's Thursday, which we associate with throwbacks. Honestly, you know what? Just take me back to when we literally were not paying an arm and a leg for a product that comes from our very own land.
I feel like right now someone should just throw me in the Garden of Eden to stop Eve from eating that apple, that fruit, because it honestly, it's not worth it. It's not. Eve, if you're listening to me...
All of us would have done, no! Sister, don't joke.
You have caused a
All of us
damn
said,
problem.
Nah, man. All of us would have said no.
Do you know when I heard this thing yesterday, I honestly was dejected.
Yes.
You know, I sat in a bus and I had a mask on. I was listening to the conversations people were having. Catherine, some of them would literally make you cry.
Yes. Yes.
I heard a woman talking about how she and her family would only eat like a heavy meal one each day. As in, maybe if it's a bar or amala, they want to eat or something, they'll eat it at night so that it can really hold them. Because she can barely buy rice for them to take to school in the morning. And, you know, some miserly thing. And now she'll put a lot of crayfish because they can't buy egg. She said she shares protein. 1 egg between her 3 children. How much protein can they get from 1 egg that you have cut into 3
for the children?
For her children. She said she and her husband have to share 1 egg.
But that's it. They have to eat after the children have eaten.
Of course.
To make sure that the children are okay. So they're left with whatever remains in the saucepan, in the bowl, in the whatever.
So do you know that I was in a cab one time. We're talking about people choosing when to eat and choosing how many squares they can afford, right? I was in a cab and this was recently, and I was telling the cabman, I'm like, Nigerians are funny. That we said, you know, when the fuel price was increasing, we said that we will not drive except he said, forget that you're seeing cars, or it's true. He said that time was the first time he came out, and that's the only time he will come out that week because he can't afford to be buying fuel that much. He only came out to make money for that day, and then he's going to go back and park the car. It's just so disheartening.
It is.
And now we heard about this. The ricochet effect will be felt from today. That means if you bought rice at 100,000 naira last... No, what am I saying? No. Yesterday. Maybe by today. The market woman will even tell you she's not selling because she wants to know what's happening. Okay, before she knows what to put on it.
Talking about what's happening, ladies, we have our correspondent, our new central correspondent, Joshua Marai, who is currently in Abuja, and is going to be giving us an update on the fuel situation. Joshua, good morning. How is it looking in Abuja this morning?
Joshua, can you hear us?
Good morning.
Good morning. Joshua.
I can barely hear you. I can barely hear you.
Just tell us what the situation in Abuja is.
Well, as you can see, motorists are currently queuing for the product. We are at Area 10, the corn oil filling station here at Area 10, and the queue is stretching from the filling station down to the street now. A quick chat with some of the motorists who are queuing up to buy the product. They say there is an increase of the product as it is pegged at 1,080 naira for a litre at this dispensary here. And for you to buy a 10 litre of that product, it will be 10,800 naira. A quick chat with one of the motorists who is a public motorist giving the service out. He said this is one situation that they don't wish for because this is the second time in the space of 2 months that they are seeing an increase of the fuel price. And indirectly, the fuel is at the centerpiece of the economy. That means that we'll be seeing an increase of food prices, increase of medicine prices, as well transportation. This seems to be the norm because when there seems to be a fuel increase, it is marked by prolonged fuel queues across filling stations. And this seems to be an established protocol of we experiencing the queue. So they are basically decrying the entire situation, that they were thinking that the rollout of the Dangote refinery will cushion the entire situation. But unfortunately, this is not the case here because with the Dangote refinery still in action, they are still seeing an increase of fuel price. And they are wishing and they are hopeful that the situation will be brought under full control.
All right. Thank you so much, Joshua. I mean, definitely we'll be looking back to see what's happening in Abuja. I'm sure that the Lagos situation is not so different at all. And even the price is honestly not so different. But I want to also ask, in terms of mobility, movement, and, disruption of activities, how is that looking for the people in Abuja? Are people complaining? What are the people saying? And how is it affecting their daily activity?
Can you hear us?
All right, we'll come back to Joshua, hopefully, when the audio is clearer.
I know Abuja is a bit different. The signs of both towns are a little different. Abuja is a bit laid back than Lagos. Lagos is more forward moving. I'm sure that no matter how it is, and Abuja has a lot of interlands where people have to go through a long distance to come into town or their basic core hubs of market. I've even forgotten some of the locations that are in Abuja. Yeah. So I know that it must be really difficult for people to go about their normal duties because they have a distance to cover. Yeah. I remember when I was in Abuja, when I was in law school years ago, 20-something years ago, from Bawa, from where we were, it was like outside in the outskirts.
And then you would have thought that the problems you would have been experiencing then were like,
they were mammoths.
Now, what would you say? So with this development, the NLC has jumped in on this and they are demanding a you see, now, again, the NLC, when you hear the NLC, I don't think the NLC Nigerians even take them seriously. So, but the NLC has jumped on this and they are demanding a 360 reversal of pump price and saying, how can a private firm dictate the pump price?
And it's funny because, like, some months ago, we're fighting for an increase in the minimum wage. But now the minimum wage can barely buy a tank.
Even now, if you have a car, it is now considered a luxury. Transport too is becoming a luxury. Do you know that before those are the things that I say. I said Nigerians will plan from back, we'll make a policy. They will now start thinking about the policy that we made. Shouldn't there be other things that are being adequately put in place? I know that fuel is expensive abroad. Yes. But they have functioning transportation system. Look at someone like me. To enter a public bus now, it feels like it's demeaning. Because it's not everywhere you can get BRT. It's not everywhere you get CNG
You have
buses.
to take a bike and then take
you have to take commercial buses that are just in plain sight. A lot of people will look at it and say, no, she's poor. It has nothing to do with poverty.
It has nothing
Have
to
you
do
tried
with
to enter into any of these taxi services?
Oh, my Lord.
Do you know how exorbitant?
I said, I was looking...
This Ogba, our office here to VI, sometimes
VI.
I'll pay 13,000. 13,000.
From here, going to Ibejuleki is 30K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you do that every day...
a child is in uni in that side, so... 30.
So if you are to do that every day...
Yeah.
No, and you are earning minimum wage, that means you just pay for transport twice.
It doesn't even make sense. So whether we like it or not, there's a ripple effect happening from this. It's going to cut across cost of transportation, food prices, general cost of living. I don't think we understand that yet. December is coming. It's the most expensive time of the year. December. Not to talk about January. January, it's as if no matter how you plan for January
is always a hard
you
month.
unawares.
And I remember that last year, you know, there was this initiative by the president to slash the prices. Even that, there was a lot of back and forth. Or the president did not settle some commercial drivers and all that. But I don't think that will cut it this year.
No.
It's no longer about whether or not we can travel. Travel to go and do what? Gone are those days when you can travel, get gifts for you. Now you're telling them in advance, I can't buy anything, and they're like, I understand.
Do you know some of them would even tell you that send the money
that you want to
use to travel. Do you know how much all this land transportation to the east is now? The cost of flying is even out of the roof. Every average Nigerian cannot just pay for flight now. It's something, it has become aspirational for average Nigerian.
I think we still have Joshua now, and I'm hoping that the audio is clearer. Joshua, if you can hear us, I was asking what the situation is. Has there been disruptions to movement? How are the people reacting to this?
Well, one thing I can tell you for sure is that the amount of cars on the road has drastically reduced. Now, you can basically count a unit of 10 cars in every minute. It is for sure that cars on the road, they've reduced because of the fuel price, the recent increase in the fuel price. And the citizenry is entirely taken aback by the entire situation. They are not taking the situation lightly because they stated clearly that it is directly affecting the commuting of transporters to work and back. And one thing that is for sure is that the price of things have started seeing an increase. The price of food particularly, they've skyrocketed. Even as at down to the amount at which you take a bus from your junction to your workplace has increased also. The increase is seen across all sectors: medicine, transportation, food. They've all seen an increase, and it is spreading sporadically and rapidly across all sectors. That is one thing I can tell you for sure. Now, for the motorists, I spoke to one man here who was buying the product, and he categorically said that this is Nigeria and nothing will happen because Nigerians are known to bear all this kind of suffering. It is quite painful hearing from our citizens to say that it is actually expected that since the thing was not dealt with from the onset, that we are going to see an increase. If possible, we might even see that we might be buying 1 litre of fuel for $1, which is now pegged at 1,650 naira.
All right, Joshua, thank you so much for that, for the update on what's happening in Abuja. I mean, ladies, he said something about the fact that the cars on the road have drastically reduced. But trust me, it's only a matter of time because you have a car and not move it. The price of fuel has increased. Imagine how much cab would be. And because a lot of people are now used to the comfort, there's so many people that carry load. You cannot be using commercial.
That comfort.
You get like...
And that's what Lolo was talking about. That comfort. It feels so when you start taking public transportation, just so that you can maximize and be practical with your energy, it feels as if, you're demeaning yourself.
Yeah.
Plus, let's not even forget. So there are a lot of reasons why people would not even want to just jump in a commercial car. There's the problem of safety,
security,
especially in Abuja, that we've heard so many things. Like, so you won't want to leave your house, although thankfully Abuja, they don't have to wake up by 3 a.m. to get to work by 10 a.m. But imagine in Lagos where you have to wake up at 4 a.m. How would you start thinking, how do I get to the road? How do I do this? So a lot of times people just be like, well, let me just stick to the car. And
can we say that cars have
That's
reduced
the
in
problem
Lagos,
with
though?
us Nigerians. We are adjusters. We adjust too quickly. No matter how stringent the situation is, you just see Nigerians just tightening their belts and accommodating more and accommodating more. I'm just wondering that what would have to happen that would bring us to that breaking point? What would have to happen? Because in another few days, you see everybody will just say, now from VI to Aja, you pay between 1,000 and 1,005. So with this slight increase now, it might move to 1,700.
And it's as though we're not... So I feel like maybe the government even understands the way the system works. So they don't do everything all at once. And we don't feel it because it's not happening at once. Imagine casting your mind back to when 8K could fill your tank. And now it's like 70,000 naira. If you think about it, well, a lot of times we just feel like, oh, yeah, it was 500 or 600 and now it's 800. No much difference. So we're not looking at it from a vantage point.
Yeah, we have some of the reactions.
I don't take you to the times of 250 naira per litre.
People praising Dangote refinery, thinking the corrupt government is ready to reduce the price of pump fuel. Tinubu is also into oil and gas. So don't expect any changes, rather increase in fuel price. All the marketers are enemies of Nigeria. This is why it's mafia games. That one is from Sonny O, I think.
Yeah. Let's investigate the pricing of NNPC products. I guess they recognize overheads in calculating their cost. If my guess is right, at this austere time, the policymakers ought to be assembled and packaged as residents for the... Despite expectations that the Dangote refinery will be a blessing, the opposite has occurred. Since the day he announced his readiness to sell petrol, the price of fuel has been increasing. Dangote and NNPCL should please consider the impact of their actions on the public.
I'm wondering what that means, because in the business parlance, Dangote is not in this business for philanthropy.
This one says,
yes,
why do we have to suffer so much for just being born in Nigeria? Mention one benefit of being a Nigerian living in Nigeria, please.
You get to suffer with a lot of other people.
Other people.
Communal suffering.
Communal suffering. These are indeed daring Nigerians. How far can we really go? Is this something?
Isn't this merciless?
Merciless or madness? How are we not on the streets by now? How is everybody just enduring and managing this hardship like it's normal? He said, Tinubu, they use jazz knee.
You know, you said this.
I just said this. I said, what would need to happen for everybody to down their tools and say, enough is enough?
But then again, Lolo, we're all asking that question. But who is taking that?
I do know every day. I cannot lie. I
the
see
blessings God has blessed them with, what God has done for them.
All right, we need to go.
I'm so anxious to just take my top off and let everybody go and sit down.
About women's riot.
About women's riot and sit down in front of the National Assembly or somewhere where they will see all of us. Young and old in our brazier. They will use all our market women who have used pin to hold their braziers up to just... They will know that this is not joke.
All right, Lolo.
I promise you the show is just getting started, and we are so sorry that our blood is getting hot this morning.
We are not sorry. This is the reality of how
there's nothing we can do. We didn't even get a chance to welcome you all properly to the show. Right? I beg no vex for us. Some days are just like this. We are begging our government. Johnny Tori Olon, haven't you done enough? This pain and hardship is too much. Anyway, please join us after the break with our guest, Dr. Maymunah Kadiri, as we focus on mental health in Nigeria. With the increase in fuel price, it is a very necessary conversation. Trust me. We'll be back.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, first, the critical question is, where have you been? And second, you're right in time for another vital conversation on Jasiri. Now, today we're diving into a topic that is often overlooked but deeply affects millions of lives. And I'm sure with this economy, the numbers have tripled. We're talking mental health issues and the stigma surrounding them in Nigeria especially. Despite growing awareness of mental health challenges worldwide, Nigeria continues to grapple with significant stigma associated with mental illness. Cultural, religious, and societal attitudes often frame mental health conditions as spiritual issues or personal failings, leading to silence, neglect, and inadequate support for those affected. So don't be surprised that a lot more people are going through this than you actually think. With Nigeria's mental health care infrastructure being underdeveloped, many people suffer in isolation, afraid to seek help due to fear of judgment, fear of discrimination, or even the fear of misunderstanding.
And yet, addressing these issues is critical for the overall well-being of individuals and for building a healthier and more inclusive society. Now, this morning, we'll explore the deep-rooted stigma, the gaps in mental health care, and most importantly, what can be done to create a more supportive environment for mental health in Nigeria. We, the ladies of Jasiri, are honored to be joined by Dr. Maymunah Kadiri, psychiatrist and convener of the Mental Health Conference. She's fondly called Dr. May. Thank you for joining us today as we join the rest of the world to celebrate and commemorate World Mental Health Day.
Welcome. Well, it's October, but welcome, Dr. May.
October 10th is very significant to me because it's World Mental Health Day, but I didn't know how important it was until I became a psychiatrist, because today is also my dad's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Grandpa.
Yeah, so dad's birthday, then World Mental Health Day. So that's very... That's
doubly
so,
significant.
Yeah, so every October 10th is very
special.
Yeah.
But before we get into the conversation properly, as we always would, we always ask every of our guests,
Okay.
how are you doing? Especially in these hard and trying times. Not just that, but because you're a mental health practitioner or professional.
That's a very, for me, I don't get to have people ask me that question often.
Yeah.
I don't get to because I'm like a dumping ground.
Yeah.
So people just walk in and like, Dr. Mays, you don't know that me this morning when I don't shop. Without it get us, they do me. No, but again, so when people ask me, so when I get clients or patients walking to ask me, Dr. B, how are you? It's really touching, because that means the person really cares about how I'm feeling before I can give. You know, so thank you very much for asking, the ladies of Jasiri. Thank you. Yeah, because truly, Nigeria is not Nigerian.
No, it's not. To be
a
honest.
lot is happening.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning and said, whew, I'm going to the mainland. Anyway, I've promised today is very important to me. I'm disappointed awful times. Then I start seeing queues. I then asked my driver, I said, what is happening? Hey. And then he said, my NNPC increased fuel. Oh. So those that are filling stations that already have fuel, they have, queued up, and prices will definitely go up. And, the reason why I may never I was not really privileged to that information is that it's one of my ways of self-care.
I know.
Yeah, you stay away.
I limit exposure to news and social media. So I try as much as possible to also maintain my own sanity. So, and it's the fact that I know I'm coming here. Well, against all odds, I have fuel, so I know I was already going to the mainland by anyway. So, yes, so it's you just telling yourself, how can you cope? And, behind the scene, when I was sitting down listening to you ladies speaking with the fact that we are, you use a word, adapt, that we shouldn't.
Yeah. We should not be so
because
adaptable.
you know what that pushes us to psychologically to a state of learned helplessness.
There you go. You know how
I knew there must be a professional
waiting
term
for
for
that.
that learned
Helplessness.
helplessness.
Yes.
Wow.
Because we started, you see,
it down.
you said something interesting when we started. She said, Nigeria is Nigerianing. And I know we like to joke that Nigeria is going through a lot and a lot is going through us as a people. Now, take a look at this fuel hike. Yeah. It's over 990 naira per litre. The cost of living has skyrocketed. Listen, the ends are no more meeting for millions of Nigerians. There is a problem in the land.
There is.
We need to consider the impact of this on our well-being as a people. So I would like to ask you, okay, so the impact, is there a link between mental illness and the economic downturns in the country with what's going on now? And how deeply rooted is this?
So even before now, 4 of us here, 1 of us will have a mental illness in their lifetime. That's basic ground root statistics globally. And Nigerians are not living in Mars or Jupiter. We are on Earth. So that means we form that part of statistics. And that just tells us that, for every crowd you are in, for every 4 persons, 1 person is already dealing with or might have dealt with or will deal with. Because of the way we are being programmed. For example, certain things happen to us during childhood that we are completely not in control. Yeah. Either you are coming from a divorce home, you are coming from a home where there was death of one or both parents. You are coming from a dysfunctional family setting. Father will say go, mother will say come. You are coming from a home where there was positive family history. Or maybe you were sexually abused. So you're already primed and sitting on the fence. So now as an adult, you just need something just little to just fall back on either side. So there are already deeply rooted issues. And right now, with the inflation, these are what we call precipitants or precipitating factors or triggers. You might not have had all those things I said happen in childhood, but right now, relationship issues, economic problems, unresolved traumas, school not schooling, workplace very toxic, bullying in the workplace, harassment. So many of those issues can easily... So it's not about I live in Banana Island, I drive a Rolls Royce, I have the money to travel anywhere I want to go to. It may just be just one thing that may tame people. And that is why even us, when people say, oh, Dr. May, I'm sure your hospital is filled up. The truth is that people have not eaten. And you want them to pay for health care. It takes a lot. People are not pricing like tomato and pepper. Every day I'm hearing my manager fighting with people, like literally, man, what do we do? They're asking for discount, and this person is not yet well. The doctors and nurses have said that it's not yet well, but they want to DAMA. DAMA means discharge against medical advice because they can no longer pay. And so they want to take their relatives back home and just go and be doing, let us just be managing. And so when they ask, we went to the hospital, they gave medication, so we are following up. So the people you see on the streets, two things are against them. Either the relatives don't know where the person is, or they know they don't want to relate with that person.
Oh, God. Because it's expensive.
So
That's true.
So here's the thing, and I would like for us to, you mentioned, you talked about 1 in 4 persons that would go through this in their lifetime. And I want us to narrow it down to Nigeria. According to the research, Nigeria is among the countries worst hit by mental illness-related challenges and the ones unattended to, right? Because we know that a lot of countries have it, but in Nigeria, it's either we're choosing to ignore or we don't even know that it's mental illness. Now, it goes on to say that given that about 40 to 60 million Nigerians suffer various forms of mental ailment, and the situation is further exacerbated by the general government's indifference and wrong public perception of these issues. So a lot of times, more often than not, you hear a lot of people, it's more like we're living in denial. We use every other word except mental illness. You hear someone say, no, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm not, I just feel like I should, until someone finds themselves on top of Third Mainland Bridge. So it
doesn't need to get to that. But, you know, when they say 40 to 60 million Nigerians are dealing with one form of mental illness or the other, over 75% do not have access to mental health care.
Yes.
So what is...
Over 75%. Because we still have one psychiatrist to 1 million Nigerians. I'm one of the one.
Yes, we saw this.
And Japa is occurring every day. So those are some of the... One psychologist to 100,000 Nigerians, one psychiatrist to 1 million. So the human resources, there's deficit. The space, mental health care space is underfunded. The infrastructure is not there. Proper integration from the primary health care. Because if you are dealing with a mental health issue, you shouldn't go to Yaba. Yaba is tertiary care level. We should start from the primary care center. So you should look for your PHC, primary care center, around you, where you should go to. Yes, then the secondary, which is General Hospital or Federal Medical Center, or tertiary is teaching hospital, psychiatric hospital. You shouldn't go to that.
So my question is, which of the issues is more prevalent? Is it that people don't know? Or they know, but they don't have access? Because I've not seen people who are actually willing to even look for...
So the knowledge of not knowing is there, but stigma discrimination is still very high amongst us.
I was just going to ask that question.
Stigma discrimination is still very high. Very, very high, in the sense that people are wary to share what they are going through. Though, since COVID, the conversation has been ongoing. It has increased a bit. Because the isolation and lockdown messed us up. A lot of people. Some people haven't gotten over it. You know, messed up their psychic. We now have complications of what we call long COVID. So there's a medical condition and long COVID, because the sequelae or complications of COVID-19, some people are still dealing with it. Some people can still perceive. Some people have erectile dysfunction. Some people can't. No, there's a whole lot. So there are complications. So that aside. But the thing is that we see mental illness as a taboo. Village people, spiritual attack, somebody is doing me. And that do not only just prevent us from accessing mental health care, we also have the issue of lack or underdeveloped, underfunded, access to mental health care because it's not readily available. Psychiatrists, psychologists, mental health professionals are gravitated to the urban region. The people in the underserved, hard to reach communities, difficult.
Let me just expand a little. I want you to expand and go deep because you just hit like a core thing that is a problem for us in Nigeria. You've talked about cultural, societal beliefs. What does our traditional and religious belief contribute? Because one of the things in Nigeria, we are very religious people. So there are many times, I was sharing with you a very close family member who I know has some kind of medical issue but the traditional and the religious beliefs that we have, he still influences a lot of people. That even some of these leaders in all these our institutions are still part of why people do not seek help.
And so for us, we are trying to befriend them. Reason is the fact that when people are in distress, they go this way. Either you go to the pharmacy to get medication for relief, or you go to the pastor and imam to seek for spiritual wellness. So we need to get them into this ecosystem. We can't just say, the religious leaders are doing whatever they like. Rather, get them equipped and empowered as gatekeepers. And, get them to be more knowledgeable and trained as mental health first aiders. Just the way somebody falls down here and is unconscious, we try to do CPR. We also have techniques that we can do what we call mental health first aid. So they are like gatekeepers, and they are the ones that can then refer and say, okay, this you are doing, you are experiencing this, you are experiencing this, you are experiencing, you are hearing voices, you are seeing this, a clear consciousness. The truth is that, this is one of the non-communicable diseases like hypertension, it's like diabetes, it's like cancer. We'll pray for and with you, but you need to see the specialist to also help you. But if they keep, saying, somebody is suicidal, you are praying for the person alone. Even knows that our therapists, we must deal with the basic thing before we start therapizing. You can't give somebody therapy that for somebody who is suicidal. Likewise, somebody who is hearing voices, seeing strange things, without addressing the main core. So that is why we need to get them into the ecosystem, because we are a very religious society, but not spiritual. So that which are two different things.
There is always one aspect of the conversation around mental health that I think needs to come into the spotlight. And, there's a look at how the issues of mental health is portrayed in our media spaces, entertainment, industries, particularly my Nollywood, our Nollywood. In many instances, we're not doing enough. And at the worst, it is how badly we portray these mental health challenges, and we don't give it adequate attention. And I dare say, sometimes we give it the wrong interpretation. How can these two sectors play a very positive role in changing the narratives around mental health and reducing the stigma? Because sometimes they actually churn out the wrong
It has
they don't have knowledge.
And this is where, we in this space, we understand the importance. In fact, anybody, the importance of media can never be underestimated. Media is very powerful. But what we want media to do is report cases of suicide responsibly. And if you are to do anything regarding movies, also try as much as possible to get experts. So I've had my hospital being used for Nollywood movies. I've had Nollywood producers and executive producers and directors come to me and say, let us look into that. I've had to produce 2 movies.
Yes, I know.
At the point, because to send the right message. Because you can't be saying people with mental illnesses are on the street, eating from the trash, and running around with torn clothes. Excuse me. I would dare to say to everyone watching us right now, those people on the streets that we call vagrant psychotic, they're just 1% of people that have mental illnesses.
Thank you for saying that.
99% is all of us.
Yes, so exactly. I wanted to go to that because a lot of times we have grown to understand only the extremities. It's either you're suicidal or you're mad on the street. We don't understand what's in between. And then I know that there are so many. One of it happened to me during COVID because I was still working, I was still on the news. But because of the things I was seeing, I was always having heart palpitations. Like, I wasn't the one going through it, but every time I saw it, I felt like crying. I felt like my heart was coming out of my chest. And I knew that it wasn't normal. It was one of it, but I just couldn't tag it. So a lot of times we don't know the names. So I don't know if we have enough time, but can you help us categorize it? It's not just either being suicidal or being extremely raving.
We are all on a spectrum, if we have to know that. Health to unhealthy, if it's depression, mild to severe. So everybody is on that spectrum. So whether we are sitting down and say we're on the healthy part, where if it is a scale of 1 to 10, are you 10 over 10 being healthy? Some of us are in 5, 6. We are just pushing. So there are a lot of different types of mental illnesses, from mood disorders, which is where we talk about depression, manic episode of bipolar affective disorder. We have extreme cases of paranoid schizophrenia. We have the mild of anxiety. The 3 most common mental illnesses globally, including among Nigerians: anxiety, depression, and substance abuse. And depression is taking the lead now because it has the highest body of disability globally. So when people use the word "I'm depressed," don't say that. Don't. Depressed means, okay, I have a depressed mood. Maybe I have not been paid, somebody is owing you, whatever. Or when you talk about clinical depression, it is a serious mental illness because it can lead to suicide. When you start hearing voices, when you start feeling people after you, when you start feeling hopeless, worthless, and helpless, and people die by suicide every 40 seconds. Over 700,000 people die by suicide every year. And so for this year, we started the mental health conference last year. We said, marks, the mind behind the marks. And this year we decided to say, look, we are not going to do the mind behind the marks because we have talked about it. What can we talk that is really related to our identity? And the question you ask, who are you, how are you? This identity with the sub-team, who are you? We truly need to retrospect to know who we are, our cultural identity, sexual identity, everything regarding our identity, regardless of what the society places on us. Take away the title, you are in News Central, you are a lawyer, Lolo, who really are you? And how that influences, because there's an intersection between identity and mental health. Based on your self-esteem, based on your experiences, and what you think about yourself and how you view the world. We can all wear glasses now, but the way we view the world are different. From different perspectives.
All right, okay, so let's move to... I'm in class this morning.
No, Dr. Maymunah is always on fire. It's her field. And she's
and then because she's eloquent, and then you understand, you carry people along, which takes us into what we're talking about next, World Mental Health Day, the theme for this year, World Mental Health at Work. All right, so with an estimated 60% of the global population in some form of employment, addressing mental health at work becomes inevitable. We have to talk about it. Do you think there's a general understanding of mental health issues in workplaces in this country? And then, this is what you're asking in exam, this question B.
Yes,
what are some common mental health challenges Nigerian workers face? Because it's as if nowadays when you say, oh, my mental health, please, it's as if people take it, and you take it,
and we are trivializing it, and it's totally wrong.
Yes,
we are trivializing it. We shouldn't say just some things that we don't mean, because it's going to derail the focus of what people that truly need help.
Yes,
I love the fact that the theme for this year is prioritizing mental health in the workplace. Nigerians haven't gotten to that point where they think having mental health support in the workplace is important. Rather, we will in fact, we have some employees that will say, you want to bring mental health, I beg, give us the money, share the money, we don't really need it. When we have more money, everything is fine.
All right,
Forgetting that some people are already predisposed from childhood because they have a genetic family history or they came from a dysfunctional family setting and all that. But the thing is that WHO is saying that we are losing over $1 trillion productive hours annually. We are losing 12 billion work days on productivity. 12 billion because of this mental health issue in the workplace. Where people are in the workplace toxic, not empowering, so the truth is that we have a service for people for mental health in the workplace. And it's called Employees Assistance Program, as the name is, assisting employees in the workplace. And every organization that has at least 30, 50 staff and above should actually log into it And what does that entail? Employee assistance program help to create a safe space for the employees to speak up and speak out. It's highly confidential. It's free from judgment. Nobody is apostolic towards you. So it's easy for you to call me at 1 a.m. and say, I want to cry. And I'm not going to judge because I'm binded by the confidentiality code. And the thing is that we sign with this corporate organization. For us at Pinnacle Medical Services, we have 27 corporate organizations right on board. We are managing over 3 million Nigerians and their families right now. And we have a call center within our facility that runs 24/7 with therapists and psychologists there. And so the thing is that we sign an agreement. I'm happy you are a lawyer. The truth is that before we get on board, you get on board, service legal agreement. We are not sending you the name of your staff who called us. Period. But we can break that clause when you're a threat to yourself or a threat to somebody else.
So I want to quickly ask, right? And I know that maybe I'm viewing it from a younger generation, but most times when people say mental health, I know that we've abused the word, but is it too much? Again, I know that privilege can be abused in Nigeria, but is it too much to ask that workers give time for people who are not feeling mentally okay? There are people who literally come to work struggling. I mean, of course, it's still on a spectrum. For each one of us, for example, when Catherine says today is not that day, know that today is not that day. She's not having it. So it might not be on a very serious level, but there are times when people come to work, you see people just crying.
I've seen people experience, burnout situations.
Yes. So is it too much to ask?
It's not too much. That is when we are talking about the mental health support. And that when we have EAP within the organization, and you don't have to have them in-house, like us, we are external EAP service provider, just call us. And then we would send to the HR, we seek for your consent and want to tell the HR that you need a day off. So, of course, we have to determine and that you really need time off, not the one you're malingering. Because people, malingering, we also have to justify that there's a reason. So the truth is that having a day off is not too much. If this person is not productive, employers want profitability. But if the bottom line is not productive, you cannot get profitability. So mental health support is very important. And in the workplace, we need to train our supervisors, managers on mental health first aid. Because they are the ones that can easily help to pick. And in the workplace, we can, if you know your colleague is dealing with issue, why don't you now reach out? And that is why I always preach the I see you method. I see you. It's not the intensive care unit, but I see you. I is identified that there's a problem. So I identified that there's a problem happening with Lolo. I'm going to connect with the seed that I see in the ICU and say, I've noticed in the past 2 years I've known you, you have been this bubbling, but in recent times, I noticed X, Y, Z. The U is understand what she's dealing with. The pain that she's dealing with. Not necessarily she telling me I'm responding. So you must create that safe space for her so that she can talk to me and I'm not judgmental, listening. And then I can now give her option or maybe refer her. She may say, I took a loan of 10 million. I don't have 10 million to give her, but what can you do? How can you support her? So I employ every corporate organization, please, deliver mental health support to your employees, train your managers, supervisors. Let's normalize mental health conversations in the workplace. It is as important as our physical health. Mental health is under the non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and cancer. Why do we sympathize with this group of people and stigmatize people that are dealing with mental illnesses? For every 4 individuals, 1 person will have a mental illness in their lifetime. Currently in Nigeria, 1 out of 5 of us is currently depressed. And 1 out of 6 Nigerian young person is currently depressed. So what are we talking about? With this inflation, we are having a mammoth of people that are working. That is why we use this word. Statement, many are mad but few are roaming.
Hey, when I'm listening to Dr. Maymunah, I am having goosebumps. She said, many are mad but few are roaming.
So please, 2/3 of our working hours we spend it in the workplace. So please make your workplace to be safe enough, empowering, supportive enough for your employees to wake up in the morning and they are happy to come to you.
Dr. Maymunah, now that we're even narrowed down to the workplace, because we need to talk about some people do not even know the impact of not getting treatment. The impact of untreated mental health issues on the employee productivity.
It's huge.
It can lead to absenteeism and the overall work dynamics can just be upended in Nigeria. Can you share some of your experiences that you have seen that has come out from stress, burnout, anxiety, panic attacks? And I have seen, or I have heard of some workplace in Nigeria, the lady came in, they said she's one of their cleaners. Everybody had sat down for work around maybe 8:20. They say she locked the door of the entire office and carried a broom and machete and put in front of the
door and sat down.
door and sat down. They said they were very traumatized because this was a usually bubbly
person.
woman.
Yeah.
You know, aside the fact that she will tell you she needs something all the time. But she just kept sitting there and crying that her life is just bad. That she will want everybody to feel the same way.
She's feeling. I know emotions are contagious because of the way she's feeling. Before you know it's happening, people are feeling the way she's feeling. They can relate, and they're like, oh, weeping. And some people maybe will cry more than her. It's not because of what she's doing. They are crying from what
they're realizing.
They're realizing that we are not alone. So when you are dealing with stuff, you are not alone, and that's why we encourage help-seeking behavior, and that's why we are saying create that environment where people can speak up and speak out. And the truth is that sometimes I'm happy that we do not really have access to guns in Nigeria.
Thank God, oh.
Because the truth is that if we have access to guns, when people carry gun and come and be
yes,
before you even say let's gun the person down, we'll have killed like how many people? People are dealing with a lot, and that's why I say please be kind to yourself, so that you can be kind to people around you, because you don't know the stuff people are dealing with. I preach the muscle we should all be, you know, exercising to have nice, the muscle of kindness and empathy and compassion. It is so, this muscle is like 3 in 1. Kindness, compassion, and empathy. We need that, not, in fact, every day, and because things are happening. And so the thing is that when we see people that are dealing with those kind of stuff, we are asking of example a lot in the sense that we've had people that have come to the office. In fact, there was a case, he was given a paper, you know, like a folder, file, to the other staff. And of course, you are expecting somebody leaning forward. He was leaning backward, and that was it.
What?
This person just left home like 30 minutes ago. So in an hour, they're calling the wife and saying, we need you in the staff clinic. And she's like, oh, maybe there's something. And then she came and met her husband, already gone, having what we call a metigomotis, already gone. So people are dealing with a whole lot because there's an intersection. Hypertensive can be depressed. Depressed can be hypertensive.
So everything is just
Okay, so you mentioned the ICU method, but it's hard to see through people. I would say because a lot of times people say, oh, there's always a tell. When someone who is usually bubbly becomes sad, it's not always like that.
It can be the reverse.
Yes, there are people who now laugh. There was a time I was telling Catherine that I'm not depressed or anything, but for me, when I'm upset, I laugh more. So there are people like that they know how to mask things. So they are more excited, more bubbly, and then the next day, they've taken their lives. And you're wondering, like, how?
How? Because this person is the life of the party, and then all of a sudden...
I heard a story that I'm sure everybody heard the story some months ago that a lady working in a bank, she had already written down a list of things and then nobody knew she was, because she was okay, and then they found her, I think, in the bathroom, she had already committed suicide. So
how about the one that just slumped on
the chair? Exactly.
So how do you see through such
So the thing is that our thoughts drive our emotions drive our behavior, and behavior drive our action. So what people see is behavioral manifestation. They see that. They don't know they don't know what you are thinking about. They don't know what you are. So she looks sad now is what you may think she's. And it can be the reversal. So if the person is bubbling, it may be down. If the person was down, maybe. And that's why we have bipolar affective. So it might be the manic phase where the person is, excited, talking to people, and befriending people and all that. The truth is that this is where that awareness is. My mantra is normalizing mental health conversations.
How do we do that?
Talk about it freely, willingly. Walk the talk on mental health. So when she said, I'm depressed, you won't say, I said everybody in Nigeria is depressed now. No, let's not trivialize people. It takes a lot of courage for somebody who is going through stuff to say, Kat, I have issues. It takes a lot for me to.
So what do we do if someone comes to me now and says I'm depressed, and me too, I'm going through what do I do as an individual?
We should normalize not sharing relatable stories when somebody comes to you to talk to you about something. It is not your issue. It is my issue at this point in time.
Me too.
Yes.
Oh, that's so. When you talk, this is so. I hope everybody gets to watch this, because Dr. M. May just said something very, very, very pivotal that even after the show, I'm going to think more on it. Nigerians are so quick to feel as if Oh, it's empathy.
No, it's not.
He said for
No,
I never
exactly.
talked since yesterday.
I know the thing that happens is that I'm going to go away with 2 problems. Because I came sharing my problems, then you ask, is it that I beg? If you hear my own now, then I would like, hey, I'm even better. Lolo is going to, hey, I'm better. Your problems are just suppressed
just
temporarily.
suppressed
It will rear its ugly head and it may be worse by the time it's coming up. So please,
So before we quickly go,
yes.
So when that happens and somebody brings the problem to your table, like Blessing says, yeah, we are going.
Yeah.
How do
Sit
you,
down,
and listen.
create that safe space.
Okay.
If you were doing like this before, take that
it.
phone and listen. I'm here. Even if she says everything or he says everything and you do not, just keep listening. I'm here. I'm listening. Be present.
Be present. Be
Wow.
present.
What a beautiful
Maymunah
way.
Kadiri, psychiatrist, convener of... Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
The
mental health
don't die. Aye. Listen, convener for being... And health convener, convener for the mental health conference. Thank you so much for being our guest today. Thank you so much. Listen, guys, it has been a full conversation. On behalf... There's no need for plenty English. On behalf of the ladies and we take a bow. Today I do the bow.
Be present.
so much.
Present.